Welcome to Rauta's Reviews. Today it's not about extreme metal, but classic metal in the vein of epic doom and heavy metal. Now, I guess it's kind of safe to assume that people who are in general into doom metal know bands such as Black Sabbath and Candlemass. Candlemass especially is one of those originators of so-called epic doom, and coming from Sweden, I guess they kind of brought the country on the global map with the doom metal originating stuff. However, it's these who have been doing this kind of music. Now, whereas Candlemass was constantly doing stuff and pretty much has been going on since rather early 80s, a band called Sorcerer, also from Stockholm, Sweden, started in late 80s. Candlemass started earlier in the 80s, but nevertheless 80s. However, Sorcerer's career kind of cut off rather quickly, and it was until 2010 when the band actually came back, and I guess it's safe to say stronger than ever before. This is a band which has very strong lineup. Now all the members, that is of current phase anyway, are sort of veterans of metal music. Some of them have played in bands such as Tiamat and Therion, not to mention a bunch of other names. So with that kind of a lineup where everybody has a wonderful amount of experience in metal music, what could really go wrong? Fortunately for us all, nothing really. So here we have the band's third album, Lamenting of the Innocent. This being the third album by Sorcerer, which kind of nicely complements the band 10th, or actually 11th year now, but 10th year anniversary with the second coming. And this one is, my friends, done with a nice cover. I'm trying not to make this reflect so much light, so this is why I have this weird angle. But we have this kind of a Pope-like character, sort of a witch apparently here, at least if you take a little bit of listening to the lyrics, and some other people helping this evil religious man to judge this woman. I think very, very nice cover, very classic one, but also greatly drawn. Inside this digipack we also have obviously the CD, which brings us the Christian cross, which is often seen as a doom metal symbol, more often maybe symbolizing death, maybe oppression, rather than praising the Almighty God and Christ and all that stuff. And here once again the cover image with the booklet. Now here is the full track list, and as you can see this has intro and a bonus track, and this is totally over 70 minutes of music. Might feel way too much for many people, and usually I am allergic to albums lasting too long because often it seems bands are not able to carry so big a burden with their albums throughout the course of the whole musical adventure, let's say this way. So inside you will find these lyrics and of course recording information, rather traditional, not so surprisingly, and there you have it. Let's take a look at the band's Metal Archive site while I keep going about this album. What I actually have here is the track list of the album, all songs with their lengths mentioned here, so as you can see 70 minutes and then some, and with this is basically the stuff that you can already get to know what's going on with this album. Lots of songs, quite lengthy, but then again nothing really surprising when we're talking about epic doom. Now my initial spin with the album was more like, this is some kind of a heavy metal. I wasn't so much aware of the band's history when I was listening to this the first time. Yeah, you can blame me, but I come from the background of death metal, black metal, and I really don't know so many doom bands really. So when I was just actually giving this spin on with the CD, or first spin being with the digital files a couple of months ago. So later on when I started to kind of dig up the basic information and check out what the band members are all about, I know you cannot really see this on small screen, but if you take a look at the link provided in the description box, you can go on with this lineup information, and you will see a lot of bands mentioned here. Some of them more famous than others, some are now ex-bands of the members, but nevertheless, you can see the experience right here. And this discography gives you a little bit of insight what's going on with the band. I mean, if you take a look at these years, 1988 to 1992, only a couple of demos, 10 compilation, and the band basically vanished from the face of the earth. Until 2010, it was said to come back, and then finally the debut album 2015. So last 5 years has been way more active than the years before that. But, you know, life sometimes gets in the way. People get into all kind of situations when bands just cease to exist and whatever. Now, like I said, I was thinking more about heavy metal when I was listening to this album for the first time. And only when I was going on with the information and stuff, I was like figuring, okay, in general, this is labeled as epic doom metal, which actually kind of makes a lot of sense when you compare this to bands such as Candlemass and the like. And if you take a look at the similar artist tab, well, it kind of shows that I'm wrong here, and the rest of the people seem to kind of agree this is more or less related to other epic doom metal bands. However, this new album is so much flirting with heavy metal, you know, the classic kind. I think it would be just a little bit blind to say it's pure epic doom, because now so many genres overlap. We all know how doom and death sometimes go hand in hand. We all know how black and death metal, black and thrash, death and thrash, and all these overlap. So I think it's kind of safe to say this new album is kind of putting elements together from heavy metal as well as doom metal. Now, when we're talking about doom metal, this album isn't exactly that slow-paced as so many other doom metal albums are. And I think that's one of the key elements which makes this more of a kind of a classic heavy metal album than being the typical kind of a very slow-paced doom metal. You kind of stuff. So this is way more energetic. But then again, this is not really something like so-called new wave of British heavy metal. This is not as high as so many power metal bands or heavy metal bands with flirting with the kind of a power metal or heavy power combos. So definitely more on the mid-tempo side than the fast-tempo energetic. So this is not your next Iron Maiden, Judas Priest or anything in that sort. But I mean, this basically operates along the lines with bands such as Manowar. But the output is totally different. Obviously, this has a lot to do with the kind of a doom metal approach. And hence, I think calling this epic doom is totally fine. But rest assured, this has so much heavy metal elements or ideas, or basically the output is so heavy metal-like. I think this could appeal to people who are not so much into doom metal. For instance, I've never been a big doom metal fan. I only like certain albums or certain bands. And usually doom metal isn't doing the trick for me. So how come this album does it and so much better than the rest? I guess it has to be something to do with the heavy metal approach. Now, throughout the 70 minutes course, every song is really, really good. There are no bad riffs, or even mediocre ones. Everything here is just like it has a meaning. It has this meaning piece of a puzzle in the songwriting that makes this album really strong. Now, obviously, it helps when you have a strong production to back it up, which makes this album really, really enjoyable. But what I think is the key element here are the good vocals by Anders Engberg. And his style, or Angbari, like I guess we would say in Finland about Swedish names. Now, Angbari's style is very classic doom heavy kind of stuff. Not going overboard, not going too high up register kind of singing, but more about these classic ways to sing. Both kind of a clean and a little bit of raspiness, which is so often with kind of a classic heavy metal singing. And I think he really nails it. I think his vocal range is just beautiful. It's very enjoyable to listen to his stuff. You know, his work here is phenomenal. And me, while not being so much into classic heavy metal as I'm more into extreme metal styles, There's no denying that Ronnie James Dio was one of the best heavy metal vocalists of all time, along with names such as Bruce Dickinson, Rob Halford, and you know. But I think this is one of the maestros who needs and deserves more recognition. But it's not like he could carry on along, this whole 70 minutes of an album without good songwriting. So once again, every piece on this puzzle matters. And I don't care if these songs are lengthier than most of the songs I usually listen to, because once, like I said, they are all good. They are that good that 8 minutes goes like, yeah, this could be a 3 minutes track. And even though this is not a kind of a hit material with catchy chorus parts and whatever, it doesn't matter because it feels so good. So after multiple spins, I am really enjoying this album and considering this one of the album of the year contenders, despite not being my forte genres, black metal, death metal, thrash metal mainly. So I think this kind of proves that even a non-doom metal head can like a doom metal album or doom heavy metal album very, very much when it's properly done. When the songwriting is just golden, production is really good, and the vocals are top ranking stuff. You really can't go wrong with this one. So, if there was one kind of a heavy doom album I would suggest you to buy this year, it would be this one. So, make sure to check it out. This is already out, been like a couple of weeks because this was released on 29th of May 2020. So it has been out for a while, but in case you missed it, go for your favorite streaming services or buy the actual physical product, which is something I always favor. So go with this one or go with the streaming ones. Doesn't really matter as long as you take a look or listen to these songs. Really great stuff, and I hope you won't be disappointed. Thank you for watching this review. See you soon with more stuff coming your way.